Hi everyone, this is John Carrasqueira with NeoWin, and today we are taking a look at the Honor 30 Pro Plus. If you're not familiar, Honor is a sub-brand of Huawei, and Huawei is a company that is currently on the US Entity List, so they cannot work with American companies, they cannot buy products from them. And so there's going to be a few things about this phone that are interesting, because you can't buy an Android license, and you can't buy chipsets from Qualcomm, for example. So there's a lot of things about this device that are unique. But in general, this is going to be very similar to the Huawei P40 Pro. So this is basically their equivalent. It's their flagship. In terms of specs, the chipset then is the Kirin 990, which is designed by Huawei. And then that's their flagship processor, of course. It also has 8 gigabytes of RAM, or 12 if you go for that variant. And it has 256 gigabytes of storage. So let's just take a quick look at what's inside the box here, aside from the phone. There's this little thing. There's a little box here that has a case with a big camera cutout. And then, of course, a 40-watt charger. So that's going to be pretty fast charging. And the USB cable that I really like because it has a little purple tone to it. And the USB connector. I just really like little touches like that. Yes, I am weird. So, moving on to the phone itself. I'll just take it out of the little wrapping plastic. And in terms of the design here, I kind of love this phone. So I don't like that I got the black model, because I just wanted one of the more vibrant colors. But the way they've done this, I'm not sure exactly what it is. They call it 3D something, but there's this sense of depth to the back here when the way the light reflects off of it. It's so interesting. It's almost mesmerizing to look at it, and the way the light is reflecting, and it looks like it's beneath the glass. It's really, really pretty. So it's very unique, even in the black color. So that's already a positive it has going for it. Not many phones can look this good in black. So that's one point for this phone. Another thing I really like about the design of this phone is the camera bump, which is weird, I know. So I didn't really like camera bumps. Obviously, I don't think anyone really does. But when you do have a camera bump, I can really appreciate when you're so unapologetic about it that you want to highlight it with a rim like this. So I saw this on the Oppo Find X2 Pro too, and I love it. It makes it feel like it's such an intentional part of the design of this phone, and it makes it feel really premium to me. So I really do like that they did that there with the camera bump. And of course, that camera bump has the cameras. So there's a 50 megapixel main sensor. And what's really unique about it, it's not the resolution, it's the fact that this is using Huawei's special sensor, and instead of an RGB sensor, it's RYYB. So the G usually stands for green. Now instead of green, you have yellow. And in practical terms, what that means is that there's going to be 40% or so more light going through the lens. So low light performance for this should be really good. And if you've seen reviews of the Huawei P40 Pro and stuff, you'll know that it actually is pretty good in low light. In addition to that, you have a 16 megapixel ultra wide angle camera and an 8 megapixel telephoto in a periscope setup. You can see that it's square instead of round. This is my favorite kind of combination for cameras. I hate when there's like a macro camera and a depth camera and stuff. I think this is the ideal setup for a camera. So you have an ultra wide, a normal camera, and the periscope. And I especially like the periscope because that has a 5x optical zoom, 10x hybrid zoom, and then 50x digital zoom. So that means you can get really close to subjects from super far away. And I just love that feeling of you start at the ultra wide if you want to, and then you zoom in all the way to 50x, and how close you can get to something that seemed so far away at first. I just think it's such a cool feeling to zoom in on things like that. So I really like the camera setup here. So anyways, going around the rest of the phone, the frame here is also black. It's an interesting shade of black and fits really well with the design. And it's got antenna bands at the top, an earpiece, and a very, very uncommon IR blaster. So if you want to control your TV or something with the phone, you can use it as a remote. Then going around the sides here, the metal frame is so thin, like because the display really goes over the edges here. So it leaves very little space for the frame here. And it's so thin that the buttons don't fit on the frame. So they actually make it a little bit thicker around the buttons so that you can actually have buttons. And I just think it adds another interesting element to the design, because now the glass is carved and the metal is large, and it's just, there's more curves to it. It's just not as generic, and I really appreciate little touches that make phones stand out. I think that's good, because phones don't look so samey nowadays. In addition to that, I do really like the little highlights that they put on the power button. I don't know if you can see it very well, but that's orange. It's really cute. I always appreciate little things that they do like that. Anyways, bottom firing speakers, USB Type-C, SIM card slot, and that's a microphone. And nothing on this side. Again, a super thin metal frame. It's crazy how thin it is. And then, of course, on the front, we have the display. It comes with a pre-applied screen protector that I hate. I don't know what it is about certain screen protectors. It just feels almost rubbery, like my finger is dragging when I try to slide on it. Just feel like it's dragging across it. It's really weird. I don't really love that. And then there's two cameras here. So there's a 32 megapixel selfie camera, normal selfie camera. And then I believe that's an 8 megapixel ultra wide camera. So if you want to take group selfies and stuff, you have a wide angle camera for that. So we're just gonna turn the phone on. First impressions of the display are quite good. I don't know if it shows very well, but the colors here are very vibrant. I really like it. So this is a 6.57 inch OLED display, and I believe the resolution is 2340 by 1080. So it's not QHD, but it does have a 90 Hz refresh rate. So it's got that going for it. So I'm just gonna set this up here real quick. So one thing you're going to notice about the setup here, like I said, Huawei is on the US entity list, so they can't deal with American companies, and they can't buy Android licenses from Google or have any Google software on this. So they're using the Android open source project, and then everything that they try to offer, all the services here, are just Huawei replacements for Google things, including the cloud backup. If you already had a Huawei phone before, you can do that. But most notably, you can, if you want to restore from another Android phone, you do have the option to move data from another device. And I can't do that right now, but it is very interesting because it copies everything, or almost everything, your photos, your contacts, your apps, even if they're not on Huawei's App Store, the App Gallery as they call it. It will just copy over the APK files and install them. And if they don't require Google services, they should work fine. So it's really interesting that they let you do that, and they let you do this at any time. That's one thing that I don't think you can really do when you restore from the cloud on a normal Android phone. You can only restore your content when you first set up the phone. Here you can always clone another phone whenever you want and just move all your data over. I really appreciate that. But for now, we're going to set up as a new device. There's this little tutorial telling you the navigation gestures just like in Android 10. So it's nothing new, but they just so you know what to do. I guess that's cool if you're trying it for the first time. And there we go. So yes, I do want to use gestures. So once you're in, this is running Android 10 based on the Android open source project. So again, no Google services. This is all Huawei stuff. And that it has Honor's Magic UI 3.1, which is the same as Huawei's or very similar to Huawei's EMUI 10.1. So it's obviously a very custom skin. And this is the Chinese version of the phone, so there's a ton of Chinese apps that I really don't care about, especially like these folders. There's just so much Chinese stuff here that's not very useful. But aside from those Chinese apps, this is going to be a very similar experience in other markets, because again, no Google services means there's got to be a lot of Huawei stuff. But obviously a lot of these things are not going to work outside of China. Even the names are in Chinese and the content is in Chinese, so that's a no-go there. But aside from that, living without Google, I'm very excited to try that out. For one thing, I don't actually use that many Google services on my normal Android phones. Aside from restoring my backups, YouTube, and the Google Assistant, I use nothing, I think, that I can think of right now that's Google. I don't use Google Photos. I don't use Google Drive. I don't use Google's Office replacement things, Google Music, Google Play Music, or YouTube Music, or whatever. I don't really use any Google service. I just don't really like Google. So if I can use Microsoft services on this, then I don't think it's going to be a huge problem. And the Huawei app gallery has a few things already. It doesn't have everything, but especially in Portugal, I've noticed that there's... Can I like deselect everything at once? No? Okay. There's a lot of things here that... Oh, I could just skip. Never mind. Later. There's a lot of Portuguese apps here already. So if you're in Portugal, there's a lot of things here that you can actually install and that will actually work. So that's good. So I see some banking apps here, a lot of banking apps, and then some apps for stores and whatever. But you do have an app store, and Huawei is trying to push it to more people, to more developers. And even if you don't have what you want on the app gallery, there's a ton of ways you can install apps, on an Android phone. You can go to websites like APK Mirror and APK Pure. In fact, I think there's some listings on the app gallery that let you download apps from APK Pure. So it looks like they're fine with you using external websites. Of course, you do so at your own risk, but still. And there's also the Amazon App Store, which you can install if you want to, and get some extra apps from there if there are any that you care about. So you always have those. There's a bunch of options there. As long as you're okay with not having Google services, it's fine. I think it should be fine at least. So yeah, let's just take a quick look at some of the software. There is a browser, of course, pretty standard, nothing really outstanding about it. Lots of Chinese stuff, so not great, but again, you can install anything you want, so whatever. The camera app looks like there's a lot of things here to go through. Okay, the camera app looks like that. You get all those options, of course. There's a lot of pop-ups in this app, and yeah, there's AF photography you can do, and then of course you can zoom in all the way up to 50x, or all the way to just the wide angle there. So there's that, and of course there's a lot of Huawei stuff. Everything is Huawei here. Settings is all custom, you can see here, Magic UI 3.1, Android 10, and the Android 30 Pro Plus. So it's gonna be really interesting to try this out and see how life is without Google services. I do think I'll miss the Google Assistant a little bit. I tend to use it to set reminders and stuff, but maybe it's not that bad. I do have to say the display on this is beautiful. Like the colors are so nice. Also, can you see the parallax effect there when you move the phone? It's really cool. But yes, I'm very interested in seeing what life is like without Google services. So I'm excited to review it. So that's been it for this video. And I'll see you guys in the next one.